Hey everyone, I am here to give you a quick tutorial on how to make your yoga bracelet with the yoga bracelet kits that you got as part of your wonderful retreat with Yoga Fresh. So you're going to have in your bag approximately 28 6mm size beads and about 5 or 6 larger 8mm size beads. And you can use these, mix them in with each other, or make, a straight row of small beads with a straight row of the larger beads. Whatever you want to do to mix and match them, or heck, maybe you just want to have all small beads. That's totally fine too. That's why I put a variety in the bag. Any extras that you end up having, just put back in the bag and I'll get them from Jen when you guys come back from your wonderful trip. You're also going to have the ability to add a couple things into your bracelet. So let's start with these. I have some different charms that I'll send along with you guys, and you're free to add those to your bracelet if you'd like. There'll be about 4 or 5, maybe even 6 different styles of charms that you could add to your bracelet. And then I'm also going to include some spacers that you can add to your bracelet as well. Again, it just gives it a little bit more interest. It can highlight certain parts of the bracelet, or just, give a little added metallic effect. So you can choose between bronze colored and silver colored little spacer beads or charms to add to your bracelet, just to make it unique for you. So to begin, I'm also going to include in each kit a length of elastic cord. So this is stretch material that you're going to put the beads on. That'll end up being your bracelet. And you're also going to have with you some glue or adhesive that you'll end up putting in the knot after you've knotted the bracelet, and then you're going to let it cure overnight so the knot is really good and strong before you wear it. So to begin, you're going to want to measure your wrist to make sure that you're making a bracelet that's going to fit and not fall off. So the average woman's wrist is between 6 and 6.5 inches. But of course, I have clients that have wrists that are smaller and wrists that are larger. So it's always good to just check. I'll send this measuring tape along with you guys so you guys can all measure when you're there. So just take the measuring tape, make sure you're going around where the bone of the wrist comes out, just to make sure you're really getting like the largest measurement of your wrist. So if we look at my wrist, I'm about 6 1/4, maybe getting close to 6.5 inches around. So I have a very average sized wrist. When you're making a stretch bracelet, you want the bracelet to be about 1/2 inch to 1 inch larger than your wrist measurement. And that way it'll rest comfortably on your arm, on your wrist, without falling off your hand. I tend to err on the side of having it be a little bit on the larger size, just because I don't like things that are like really tight onto my skin. So you'll measure your wrist. If you can, take a piece of paper and make a line measuring out how long your bracelet should be, since you most likely will not have bead boards with you to do the measurement for you. So if you have a piece of paper, mark the beginning and the end of your bracelet on that piece of paper. So as you're playing with the beads and the design, you can keep track of how long you need to make it. So now that I know I want to make mine to be about 7 1/4 to 7.5 inches in length, I am going to start creating my my bracelets. So I'm going to do a real simple design. I'm going to have the larger beads all together, and then I'm going to put the smaller beads in a row as well. And I'm going to want to have an even number of smaller beads, because I want to put my charm right in the middle of the line of smaller beads, just because I think that'll look nice. There is no right or wrong way though. You just play around with it and see what works for you. So I want to keep track of how many beads I'm putting on the board, and I want to make sure they're even. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I'm going to add one more, so then I have 11 small beads on either side of the charm. And then I am going to add a couple of those little spacer beads on either end of the larger beads so that it just kind of gives it a little bit of a accent and separates out the larger ones from the smaller ones. Again, that's just the way I feel like making it today, and there's no right or wrong. So after you've got your layout all figured out, you're going to take your stretch cord, and I want you to pull it a couple times just to kind of loosen it up a little bit. This makes it easier to make knots in the end, and it kind of warms up the string and loosens it up a little bit, which you want. You don't want it to be too stiff. Otherwise, the bracelet is going to get loose over time. So you were just kind of doing that loosening process right now. So then it'll fit nicely and not stretch out. So there's my stretch cord. If you like, you can take a bobby pin and slide that on the end of your cord. So as you're stringing the beads on, the beads don't fall off on one end. And then you want to start making the bracelet with the bead or the area of the bracelet that you're comfortable making a knot in. So I'm going to start my bead bracelet with my little accent bead here, because if you can see, it has a decent sized hole up at the top, hoop up at the top. So when I do make my knot, when it's all done, I can kind of slide the knot in there so it's hidden slightly. It's just the way I like to set mine up. So I slide that on first, and then I simply follow my design and add the rest of the beads in the correct order so that it comes out right. So for this bracelet, I chose the smaller beads are amethyst beads because I've just always really loved amethyst. I love the color, and I like the different shades within it. I like how it goes from lighter to darker. And then the larger beads right here, these are fluorite. And fluorite comes in a variety of colors. I particularly like the kind of fluorite called rainbow fluorite that has variations of clear to kind of pink to purples, really dark purples, and even there's some green in some of the beads that come out. I have a larger fluorite stone that I have just here at home because I like to collect really pretty ones, and it has all the colors just, you know, in kind of stripes throughout the larger stone. It's pretty cool. So just going to keep putting my beads on the string. And one thing you can do when you're beading is to kind of think of some good energy, some good thoughts, maybe a mantra you like. And your bracelet will get infused with that energy. And so every time you wear it, you can be reminded of that energy, of your amazing trip as part of this yoga retreat. And also, some people like to put their bracelets or their stones out like in a windowsill when there is a full moon, because they feel that the energy from that moon charges the stones and builds more energy in them. You could also get the same thing through putting them out under the sun. However, I caution against putting some stones under the sun because, for instance, amethyst will actually start to bleach out if there's too much sunlight hitting it. And some stones are like that. So just to be safe, if you do want to try and charge them and add some energy to the stones, lay them in a windowsill some night when there's a full moon and just let the moon's energy infuse into the beads. Another thing with these bracelets is to not wear them when you're washing dishes or taking a bath or going swimming. it's best not to have the bracelet submerged in water. It can weaken the cord and weaken the security, the glue that's in the knot. So just take it off when you're washing dishes or having a bath or a swim. So now I've got my bracelet fully beaded, and now it's time to make the knot. So I'm going to take my bobby pin off the one end, and then I'm going to take my bracelet, which I've already stretched out, and I'm going to make one knot and pull it tight, and then make a second knot, pull it tight. Now I do 2 knots, and then I pull tight, and then I'm still holding on to the ends of the string, and I hold on to the bracelet as well, and I pull in opposite directions. That helps to make the knot a little tighter. Now I'm not done. I want to do a 3rd knot. So I've done the 2 in the same direction, and now I'm going to knot from underneath. So I pull the string underneath the bracelet, make another knot, and I'm pulling it tight again and pulling it on opposite ends of the bracelet just to really get that knot in there. And you can see when it's all done that the knot will hide nicely under the charm. So next we want to secure the knot. So you're going to take whatever adhesive or glue I send along with you guys on your trip, and you're gonna take a little bit and just put a little dab into the knot to help keep it secure. So I put it right on the knot, and I just kind of make sure it gets all around the knot, and then I'm sliding it under the charm like so. And now I'm just going to lay the bracelet out and let it cure for about 24 hours. The longer you can let it cure, anywhere from like 6 to 24 hours, the longer you can let it cure, the more secure the adhesive will be on the knot. But for the sake of this video, we're gonna pretend that 24 hours have passed. So have a scissors handy. If it's got a nice fine point, that would be best. So hopefully you guys can have something like that when you're there. And I'm going to make my cut right as close to the knot as possible. And that's why it's nice to have a real small fine point scissors to do this cutting. There we go. And then you can kind of tuck the extra ends down in, or I feel like I can even cut it a little bit closer. There. So there you go. You have a beautiful bracelet made with all natural, high quality stones. I do not make bracelets with cheap stones. So you're wearing a really high quality piece of jewelry that is infused with your energy, your good intentions, your good thoughts,